Audio sync. Got my lapel mic on. My microphone broke, or my camera, I don't know what it is. Something is, so I just have to use this. Anyways, welcome back to episode 2 of Midnight Gospel. We're going to be talking about this show. Well, just discussing it and opinions, thoughts, all that good jazz. So I like this episode, man, and I was trying to figure out, what direction to take these videos in, and how to really approach this show, and some of the things that I've been going through in life right now, and things like that. And I was kind of in a limbo. I'm kind of in a limbo, but in terms of the direction that I want to take these videos, I wasn't too sure, where to take it and how to approach them. But this particular episode, this show in general, there's a lot to unpack. There's just so many things going on at once, that it is kind of overwhelming. I mean, one, you have, I think Duncan Trussell, who I think that's who it is, who is, Clancy and the main character in the show, and he has a podcast. So it's kind of this weird thing where the show is kind of intertwined with the podcast or something like that. And then in the show itself, he is making these videos, literally just, going and talking to people and things like that, and putting them on the internet. And that's something that I had done before. That's literally why that's one of the things that I loved about filmmaking, is going and hearing people's stories and telling people, and hearing how they thought and the things that they went through and things of that nature. So it's kind of cool to see that in its weird way. It's a reflection of society. I'm telling you, there's so much to unpack in that show. Wait. Okay, hold on. What's up, y'all? Welcome back to episode 2 of Midnight Gospel, where we talk about Midnight Gospel and, yeah. Okay, so I don't know where I was. Anyway, anyway. So there's so much in that show to unpack, and in this episode in particular, it talks about death, and it talks about more or less Christianity and things of that nature. And the show in itself is a really cool reflection of society and things of that nature. But the one thing that I want to talk about was death, and I think it really kind of in a way touched me, because when I was little, my father passed away, and it, for the longest time I didn't really comprehend that idea. It happened when I was little, and I think when you're little, you're so you're so caught up in your own world that everything around you is almost like it didn't hit me until I was big, until I was probably 16, 17 years old, that I realized what it was to grow up without a father. And it was in that moment when I realized that it's because of shows like these where I derive life lessons from. It's not just this show, and it's not just other shows and things like that, but to me, that's kind of what the internet has become and what these people have become. They've become sort of like father figures. And growing up, I did have father figures around me, but it was never a consistent thing, not until later in life. But I always kind of found myself, learning from the internet, and it was sort of a weird thing for me to wrap my head around, because I hadn't, I was like, oh, you're learning from the internet, why would you learn from strangers online and things of that nature? Why take it's just weird, right? Because they're strangers, you don't know them, it's the internet. The internet's like a weird, scary place or whatnot. And here I am, growing up, and just deriving all this information and trying to learn about what it is to be a man and what it is to be a good human and things of that nature. And then it shows me, because the internet is this sort of scary place, it also shows me the bad things and the things that we shouldn't be doing and things of that nature. So it was like, it's really weird for me to talk about this show, because to me this show is also one of those things that I learned from, because these people who are on this show, Duncan Trussell and I don't know who the guests were. I didn't read the credits, which I should probably do that. I'll just put it right here. And it's like you learn and you gain a different perspective, and it actually becomes something that has become a part of me. It's not just something that I watch for entertainment. Now, there are things that I do watch for entertainment. This show is one of those things, but it's also just one of those things where I try to learn from it and I try to make something of it. Hold on, time out. And so, it's a weird situation for me, because, like I said, I grew up, raised by a single mother, and my mom is great. I think she did a wonderful job, and there's always that one thing missing from your life, that when you don't have a father, when you don't have that male authority in your life, it's just, there's something missing. And I look to shows like this and to things on the internet to kind of teach me what I didn't have someone to teach me in real life. And this one particularly hit because they talk about death, and experiencing death, a traumatic death in my life at a young age. It kind of taught me, because of when it happened as a little kid. I was at an age where I was 6 years old, where I was aware of the situation, but I was still very young, and almost, in a sense, I was young, naive, uncorrupted, and like it was a weird situation. And it wasn't until later on that I realized, I am grateful for that experience. It's kind of weird to think of a situation, like that's so traumatic. But because of when it happened, it kind of taught me that, it's like in the episode, they talk about, when you accept death, everything becomes easier, right? Because death is just inevitable. It's an inevitable part of life. And we all, from the dirt and back to the dirt, like ashes to ashes, we that's all we are. We're dust. And when I was little, I didn't realize that, but later on in life, when I realized just that life, as precious as it is it's something natural. It's just inherently part of our world, where we have to die. And there's a lot of pain when we live. There's all these emotions like anger and rage and envy and jealousy and all these sort of things that consume our minds, and all that is kind of for nothing. And that's what I learned when I was little, is when you're young and you're aware of a situation, you don't completely comprehend it. And I think that idea that we don't comprehend it is just something that we learn as we grow older. But as a young child, this idea of not comprehending it in its entirety, I think it's the proper way to approach something traumatic like that, where it's just a part of life. And as a little kid, you go on, right? Like, what, you don't know the severity of the situation. You're young, you think the world is it's like, I don't know. It's weird. It's weird for me to think about it like that. But that's how it was. That's how it was for me. And the show, when, when the cow dog, deer dog, or whatever, is talking about death and how ultimately we are reduced back to what we are, and everything gets eaten, and how there's a cycle to life. We're born, we eat, we kill, we consume, we die, and then the earth eats. And that's how we recycle ourselves. And I think that's something that the show is kind of talking about. This is kind of going to go back into the show a little bit. But, we live in a world that's a combination of organic and synthetic, right? So, like in the show, these clown people who had these masks on, and they pretended everything was La La Land, and they lived in their own ignorance. And these are the clown people, right? The people who were infected by these parasites. They would go out into nature, exploit it, because ultimately we need nature to live. We need it. And completely unaware of the situation, we exploit it, and we pretend like it doesn't happen. We put on these facades, right? Like we know that there's the forests are getting torn down, but we don't really do anything about it, right? So we kind of live in our own ignorance, and these clown people would kill these animals, and then they would take them into the meat city. These kind of wealthy people would just consume it, because ultimately it comes down to the fact that no matter kind of where we are, I think the way I interpret it is, if we have enough money to afford a piece of meat, then we have enough wealth to be able to make a difference in the world. And we enable this system that exploits nature, because we indulge in ourselves like that, and we those luxuries that we enjoy, we enjoy them at the expense of this earth. And the show kind of calls us out, because we are these beings of just flesh and blood and cells, and our souls and our consciousness is all in these bodies, in these things, and there's so much hypocrisy that goes on, at the same time, because all these things and these luxuries, like this camera that's in front of me, or this laptop and this screen that's next to me, these are things that we get and that we desire, and we kind of use our resources and we exploit our resources. But ultimately, like, when it comes down to it, which the show talks about is love and just how happy you can make other people, we start to kind of value these and these systems that are in place to gratify these desires, while realizing that while we are human and we are a part of nature, we neglect those aspects, like the love aspects and things of that realm, where instead of knowing and being aware of the fact that when we die we will just go back into the dirt, that we won't take any of this, instead of being aware of that, and being aware that it's better to love and care for somebody than to try to exploit people to get these material things, right? Because ultimately in the show, the meat city would collapse on itself, and it became nothing, and it was reduced to nothing, because these people, right, these people that were out on the streets, these fly people, I think they were flies, they were out in the streets, and they were trying to revolt against this sort of system. They were trying to revolt against this thing that enabled these desires that exploited nature. And they would write lies on the city, and they try to kind of wake people up because these people kind of infected with parasites. Every time they exploited or they kill these animals, they would extract the very thing that they needed to continue to enable those thought processes, and then off to the slaughterhouse where they would just consume and eat meat, and it was just a whole cycle. And this is what I mean by there's just so much to unpack in this show, because in the beginning I was talking about growing up fatherless because of what they were talking about, but then there's also the visual parts, and it's literally that it's the whole, we're gonna be reduced back to nothing, to dirt, and then there's this whole system. So I'm telling you, there's so much in the show to unpack, but that's why it's so amazing to me, because at least when I hear these Duncan Trussell and I don't know who is on the second episode, but when I hear this podcast, when I hear this conversation, I'm gonna hop back into the death part. It almost becomes like this weird thing, because like I said, when I was young and things of that nature, like there is, and being aware of it now, there is comfort in knowing that I'm gonna die one day, and that we're all gonna die one day. And I think that sort of awareness enables behavior that makes life meaningful. When you truly appreciate the things that matter most, everything kind of becomes obsolete. It's kind of selfish of me in my part to think this way, because anytime that friends come to me for a certain situation, I almost feel like a dick telling them not to worry, that it's not a big deal, when to them in their head it's something so huge and something that's blown out of proportion, right? But just because that's how I see things, when to me the not even the worst thing that can happen is death, because it's happened to me. I've experienced it up close, and because of when it happened, I've learned to appreciate the fact that life, it's just a part of life, and we have to accept that. And when we accept that, we become more aware of what truly is important, and those are the people we have around us, and the things that we leave behind on this earth. That the impact that we make on people's lives, and how in the show said there's sort of these different types of loves. That the Western type of love is a very romantic love, but in Eastern Tibetan beliefs, love is how happy you can make other people. And that's something that kind of really stuck out to me in the show. It showed me, kind of brought me back to these roots that I was in younger, like when I was younger, and it was just simply to love people and to make an impact, and to inspire people, and to make them happy, because that is what really matters in this world. The money doesn't matter, because ultimately we won't take shit when we die. When we die, everything that we are will turn into dirt. It will feed the worms. Worms will eat us, and we will just, it's a cycle. Worms, maggots, I think, turn into fly. I don't know. Actually, let me refrain from that, because I don't know. And I don't want to make myself look foolish, but ultimately we reduce back to dirt. And the things that matter most it's not the material stuff. It's the interactions that we have with people, and being aware of that brings us peace. It brings me peace. It brings me peace knowing that no matter, if I have a bill to pay or something, or like my car bills or things of that nature, where I have to kind of worry about that stuff, even though I have the luxury of having a family that can take care of it when necessary. It to segue into I've I've been in a fortunate position to be able to experience wealth and what wealth truly means, and poverty, almost in its truest sense. I've been able to experience these kind of polar opposites without really kind of being in it, and this is what I mean by experiencing wealth. I've always been in a position where, being taken care of by a loving mother who tried her best to provide for us. That's what wealth has become to me. It's not large amounts of money, but it's more or less being able to live, and being able to live in a place where you can explore ideas, and to me that is the greatest wealth. It's being able to explore those ideas where you get to just try different things and things like that, where because I have the luxury of, even though we're like a middle class family, I have the luxury of, if I can't pay my car, then I know I'm going to be okay, because my family will take care of it. Granted, it's not like okay, we got you this month, but you gotta get next month. Like, that's kind of the situation, and that to me is wealth. That is the greatest form of wealth, and and I know that because I've seen and I've experienced like poverty in a sense. When I go to Mexico, and I see where my family lives, and I see that they make $1 to $2 a week, and I see the things that we have to endure, and that people have to endure, and knowing that that's where my family comes from, and knowing that is home, it's very eye-opening, and it really it shows me these stark differences. And when I was living in my car, when I was making $0 a month, I got to experience a sort of uncomfortable level of living. But even in that time, I was very, very happy. I was taking care of all of my necessities. I was making just enough money to survive, and I experienced the luxury of happiness and fulfillment because I was doing something that I loved, and a lot of people don't have that ability because of the things that they, maybe they have a family or things of that nature, and maybe they just don't want to be living out on the streets because maybe they live in a bad neighborhood where things can happen. And so it's like I've kind of zeroed in on this weird perspective where it's like it's not as bad as it seemed, but this idea of what you think is great and what you think you should aspire to is also not the thing that is important. It's not either or, right? Like, if you're here, this isn't gonna solve it, because you can be here and be happy here. You can be happy in this position, but you have to take it from a different approach. You have to be doing something that you love. If you're doing something that you love, it doesn't matter where you are in life. Like, if you're making $10,000 and you're the happiest person in the world, it doesn't matter whether or not you're making $100,000. I think ultimately everybody would want to aspire to that because it brings the level of what do you call it? Like, you elevate your lifestyle, right? And I think elevating your lifestyle, whether it's for you truly, or whether if it's for those around you, and you just want to seem like you want to get your shit together. Because again, I was living in my car. Now, it's not to say that like everybody should live in their car or whatnot, but living in it enabled a perspective of, I don't need a fancy house. I don't need, typical picket fence and, things of that nature. And I reckon all you did need was a car, and, some people, again, don't have that luxury. So it's this weird perspective, because I was effectively homeless, and I have seen levels of poverty that are true, that are nothing remotely to any level of poverty in the US. And it's kind of dickish to dismiss, what people go through, because it's not as bad as what other people are going through. And, you don't, it's not that you don't want to like help or anything like that, or just like suck it up, buttercup. It's more or less just perspective thing, because you see perspective, and you just see it. And that's what I've seen. I've seen it, and I've seen wealth. Wealth is the ability to see those different perspectives and to see what really matters in life. That is wealth. And when people are robbed of their wealth, when people are in that kind of system where they have to go out and hunt, and they have to, kill, and they have to continue to enable these systems like these parasites, because in the show there's these parasites that were controlling these people, and these flies were trying to free those people of those parasites, because they would be free, right? And these clown people, these people who were in this meat city, or I think that's what it called. It was like this park entrance or something like that. They had these fake faces on, and there's a moment in the show where one of the clown people goes into the restroom, and he just feels exhausted of constantly putting on a facade for others, because to put on that facade is enabling everything that was going on, and that wasn't nature. It wasn't part of what it means to be human. And I think all those things that happened in my life, and the things that kind of it enabled that perspective. It made me see that perspective, and it made me understand what the artists in the show were saying. It made me understand what Duncan Trussell and her guests were talking about, what Clancy and the meat deer dog were talking about. And you just get a different perspective on things, and it helps. It makes life easier. It makes the simple things the best things, and that's what brings me the most happiness, and that's what I value the most. And I think it's inherent in every human to want to be happy, to want to be able to experience love and joy and all these things. And even when the most traumatic things happen, when you appreciate those things, and you accept the fact that it's part of being a human, and that no matter what happens here, that you'll just reduce back to food for nature that's around you, like, it is peaceful. And that's something that I learned at a young age that I didn't become aware of until I was much older, that I didn't, and that I wasn't able to comprehend until shows like these came along. And that was because I didn't have a father. And growing up, I always sought a father figure, and I turned to the internet and to shows like these, and a cartoon taught me this, like, or maybe it didn't teach me, but it made me able to comprehend it. Excuse me. it made me able to comprehend what it truly means. What it truly means to be alive. Okay. So just for the closing remarks, because I had I thought I was recording the external audio and I was just recording off of the camera, and so I apologize if the audio just kind of went, anyway, everything in my life has led me to be able to appreciate this perspective, and this show, Midnight Gospel, has enabled me to articulate that and to see that and to appreciate where I come from, and what it takes to kind of live a happy life and things like that. And that's why I like this show. I grew up kind of seeking out father figures in my life, and or things to help me become better, and the internet was a lot of that. So I appreciate this show. I appreciate you guys for watching and for sticking through. If you listened through that, the audio I know wasn't great, but thank you. And this show is amazing. This was episode 2. I'm gonna be doing episode 3, dropping that soon. So thank you for sticking through and watching, and I hope that if you have something that's going on in your life like that, like bro, just or gal, or just drop a comment. Let's talk about it. It's life, man, and I think no matter what happens and what you go through, ultimately you will get through it, just like you have every other time you felt like you couldn't get through something, and that's what it means to be human, and that's what it that's what love enables within ourselves, and we keep pushing. That's what we do. So thank you for watching, and I appreciate you sticking through. If you watched all of it, it was long, and I like talking about this stuff, and I like sharing it, because I think that, like in this show, sharing perspectives and things like that, it teaches us what it means to be humans, and how we all each get through things individually, and how we all share sort of these fundamental commonalities, and that's what's important in life. That is the things that we should value. So if you stuck through, I appreciate it. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time. You see, I unplugged. Anyway, thank you.